You're listening to The Bird Bath. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. This week we're bringing you something a little bit different. You might be able to tell by my voice here that I'm not feeling the 100% that I normally am, but what I thought would be a fantastic episode is to bring you an interview and just a part of a series that another fantastic podcaster is doing, who is Megan Sprinkle with the Vet Life Reimagined podcast. Megan did a series of interviews with people across the industry about what they expect to see in 2025. So this week, we're going to bring you my section of that interview with Megan, and also encourage you all to go and listen to her show going forward and enjoy this series. Hope everyone's having a wonderful 2025.
Welcome to Vet Life Reimagined. It's 2025. For me, I feel that 2024 left us with a lot of unknowns, especially for our veterinary profession. So I thought we could use some expert insights to navigate the new year ahead. I decided to start the year of the podcast with a series featuring multiple industry leaders sharing their predicted trends for veterinary medicine in 2025. Many of these experts have been past guests on the podcast, and I'll share their links to the full episodes for your listening pleasure in the show notes. In this episode, I have Ryan Leach, Alyssa Mages, and Dr. Andy Anderson. You will see some themes in what each of these individuals discuss, and they are presenting very different perspectives in our industry. So I hope you appreciate the diversity of positions and equal expertise and passion. We must take multiple perspectives into account to find the best solutions. Speaking of solutions, you can see that everyone here today is invested and wants to offer solutions to challenges and gaps. So listen with that in mind. They go beyond superficial lists and into what they believe could be ideal possibilities. So to start us off is Ryan Leach, host of the Bird Bath podcast, on which Ryan has collected and shared the most important information around the veterinary and pet industry all year, so that no matter where you are in veterinary medicine, you are in the know on all aspects of the profession. I brought Ryan on the podcast in January of this year. He brings a background in business growth strategies, so I'm excited to bring his insights into 2025.
Three big things that I think we should expect to see in 2025. And I'm a broken record a lot of times when I talk about these, but I always like to look at what we've seen in the European market as a precursor to what to expect in the corporatization of vet med. As everyone should know, I'm not a doctor, so I will not tell you any medical breakthroughs that will happen. But I do think that in 2025, we will start to see more consolidators buying other consolidators. That's already begun in 2024, but I think it's going to become a more fleshed out program that we're going to start seeing at a much higher level. There's an increase in private equity coming through, and there's some really, really big deals that are happening already in that section. And that's exactly what happened in Europe and specifically in the UK. So I think groups buying groups will be one of the major things there. I think the conversation around veterinary professional associate role, veterinary technicians, DVMs, how all of that world boils out is going to be a big piece of it as well. It's going to be interesting. It was very interesting to see, and a lot of people brought this up when I've talked to them about it, is like Colorado put a decision on a role for care to the general public. And that's unusual in some situations. It's not traditionally that, the example I gave, I was like, I didn't vote how many CE hours my radiologist needs to take. But, so that was interesting to see. I think we'll continue to see that. And I think there's some big moves that are happening in some of the corporate groups with difficulty finding DVMs to staff practices that will be embracing an increase of utilization of any available talent that they have. So some of that's going to look like, I think, a DVM in charge of 3 or 4 practices and somewhat bouncing between them to be able to staff with a license and be able to do those sort of things. So I think that's going to be a part of sort of that redefinition of what the roles look like. And then the last thing is going to be, let's go with the technology thing. I think AI is just going to continue to envelop more and more of every single thing that we do. It's annoying to say AI in every single conversation, but it is going to be the standard bearer for the decision of who and what technologies are being adopted in 2025. So I think that technologies that aren't at least preparing to work with or embracing the utilization of AI, and embracing it but not requiring it, maybe, is kind of the interesting side of it. I think those will be who we continue to see grow and win. And I think we'll find people that are hesitant to embrace AI are going to be on the Betamax versus VHS side of things. So that's what I think we're going to see in 2025.
I am going to ask a couple follow-ups. When you say AI, I think that's a very broad category. Like AI can be in lots of different things. It's in reading radiographs. It's in writing our medical records, those kinds of things. So when you think about everything that you've witnessed so far and where trends could be going in 2025, where do you think people should be leaning in the most when it comes to embracing AI? Do you have kind of a direction there where they're going to benefit the most?
Yeah, I think, and it's been said by a lot of people smarter than me, which is a lot of people, AI should be used, or AI tools should be used to offload the mundane. I think that's the first place where everyone should start and look at it. I was using it this morning. We did a webinar. I was trying to compile all of the different comments through the chat and everything like that. I just screenshotted the chat, loaded it into ChatGPT, asked it to take the file, turn it into text, and then categorize them by style of question. I could have done that. That's not like impossible to do. It would have taken me maybe 45 minutes to do it, but I had a tool do it in 3 minutes. And then I went through and checked the answers and got on with my day. So I think we'll find those sort of things. So SOAP notes, emails, a lot of generative stuff, the writing of things. But I also think the utilization in imaging is going to be continued to grow. So I think the use of AI to dispel some of the ambiguity around looking at radiology reports and things like that's going to be helpful. Plus the standard image recognition. So taking a photo with your phone and having it tell you what the photo is of, or doing counts, or categorizing something to put it into a medical record, or things like that, I think are going to be the place where we see it. I don't think it's going to start telling you which, wire to cut on the bomb or anything like that, or tell you, you need 4 sutures instead of 3 in this opening, because it's like, we're still going to have doctors be doctors, but I think it's going to be like, hey, I didn't have to scrub in and scrub out to type notes and then go back and close and type more notes and go back. Like, I think that's going to be the big piece where we see in 2025.
So kind of tying in the last 2 points, as we need to utilize doctors as efficiently as possible for their knowledge, taking away the things that AI could do will be the most important thing to lean into.
Yeah. I think working top of license, and it's going to be about working, if you take it out of the vet clinic, working top of your skill set. My skills, I hope, are more valuable than reading comments and organizing them. So I should utilize tools to be able to streamline that process.
And then one question back to your first point on the consolidators buying consolidators. For people who are already nervous about consolidation, this just seems like mounding on top, maybe.
Yeah.
So looking at the European example, what do you see, good, bad, ugly, whatever, from their example that might come with that consolidator buying consolidator of practices?
Obviously, the European market is less, I won't say less, they still are pet crazy. No one's as pet crazy as Americans, though. So there is a little bit of a difference in that aspect. I think for people that are scared of consolidation, a couple things to keep in mind when you look at it. One is the idea that those practices are already owned by a corporate group. And the goal of a group buying another group is removing an additional layer of corporate structure within there would be the ideal scenario. So instead of having two CEOs that might not have vet experience, or one CEO that does have and one that doesn't, running two separate groups, you'll acquire those two and you'll find the better leader, hopefully, within those groups. So you might have the CEO from one group, the COO from another group, recruiting from this company and change management team from another one, blend together to be able to hopefully create a more powerful and quality organization. So that's my hopeful view on it. The other side of it, where people might say, I don't want giant companies and blah, blah, all of that. There's still independently owned practices in Europe. And there is a additional wave. They're kind of doing it somewhat different than us, but there's this wave now of the de novo groups growing in Europe as well, similar to what we see in the US with companies like Modern Animal and Pet Folk and Pet Vet 365 and Bond and Sploot. Those groups that are growing, they have some European groups that are starting to model their businesses after what they've seen successful on the de novo side in the US. So there is that light of DVM owned, operated, continuing to grow and get a footprint. So I think it's going to allow it, and hopefully, and if people are loud and listen to great podcasts and understand what's happening in the space, they'll be able to have a more active voice in what happens, to be able to say, hey, I want our CEO to be a DVM, or I want our chief medical officer to be a member of the board as opposed to just being a figurehead. Or, there's ways that we can, as an industry, sort of demand more voice in the organizations. And the bigger they get, the bigger that voice needs to be. To hear the rest of that episode, as well as the rest of the series that Megan has coming out over the next couple weeks, be sure to subscribe to Vet Life Reimagined. And as always, don't forget to be subscribed to the Bird Bath and check out our Substack as well. Make sure that you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, and hope that you all have the best of health. For the Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.